There haven't been many teams in recent history as hyped as the Clippers were when they first formed back in the 2019 offseason after trading their entire future for Paul George, which by the way, looks like a horrendous trade in hindsight. It's now been 3 years since the Clippers claimed LA was their city, and since then, the other team in LA won a championship, they blew a 3-1 lead in the playoffs, lost in the Western Conference Finals after Kawhi tore his ACL, and missed the playoffs last season. So coming into this year, with Kawhi back and healthy, it was meant to be their year. Again, to finally prove people wrong. So many people had them as their favourites to win the NBA championship. But since then, they have started the season off a bad 21-20 and are currently on a 5-game losing streak, including absolutely embarrassing losses to the Nuggets and Timberwolves, with disgusting performances from Paul George and Kawhi. I mean, there's been so much talk about how bad the Lakers have been this season. Well, the Clippers are only a game ahead of the Lakers. On paper, the Clippers are far more talented than teams above them, such as the Kings or the Mavericks. They have 2 All-NBA players surrounded by great role players. So it raises the question, what is wrong with the Clippers? Let's talk about it. Well, first of all, the lack of playtime from the duo together has definitely caused a lot of issues. Kawhi has only played 17 games this season, and PG and Kawhi have only been on the court together 15 times this season. How can you expect a team to build and develop around a duo if they barely play? You can't expect a team to compete in the playoffs if they have developed zero chemistry by the time June comes round. I mean, their offense is horrible at times. There's next to no fluidity or any real plays. I mean, this can be seen as they are the 3rd worst offense in the league at the moment, which is actually embarrassing. I think a lot of that is caused by such a heavy isolation offense they run. They average the 5th least assists per game as a team in the league. It's pretty much everyone space out and let PG dribble the clock out for a shot, which just isn't a good idea when they have so many other weapons such as Norman Powell and Zubac. The offense also struggles to flow as the roles from the players change so much. For example, because PG and Kawhi are out so often, role players have to change their way of playing constantly. On one night they'll be the number 1 option when the duo is out, and then they'll go straight back to catching and shooting a few threes with them playing. I really think that this throws off the players' rhythms as well as the team's rhythm. I think Kenny on TNT sums it up perfectly.
Norman Powell comes to the arena, he might get 20 shots one night or he might get 3. And that's a big disparity. And when you're playing on a team and not knowing your offensive role, it's because the roles aren't defined. And so everyone's playing in a different way. And then all of a sudden he puts a unit in that kind of catches a spark. And then you go, oh wow, they're so good. But no, you have to get a consistent effort.
On top of this, in years past, although they didn't play much, we knew that if Paul George and Kawhi were on the court together, they would ball out. Well, that's not exactly been the case this season. Kawhi hasn't been great at all. He's averaging just 17 points a game on very bad splits, including just 26% from 3, his lowest points per game since he was just 23 years old. We have to remember, although some players recently have come back great from injuries such as KD, Kawhi suffered a seriously bad injury, tearing his ACL. To be fair, he has looked better recently and he's come back from injuries before. Another major issue for the Clippers is the point guard play. Ironically, similar to how the Lob City Clippers were in a constant need for a great wing, this Clippers team has struggled so much in getting a great point guard to run their offense. First of all, you have Reggie Jackson, who, well, isn't the best. Despite hearing their performances, he's averaging 11 points on just 40% from the field. Not only that, he is a horrific facilitator of the ball, averaging less than 4 assists per game while turning the ball over twice a game, one of the worst assist to turnover ratios in the NBA for a point guard. It gets even worse. When you look at the guy that they brought in this offseason to be their main point guard, John Wall, he's also averaging 11 on 40% from the field, while being a horrible 3-point and free throw shooter. He's a liability on defense at times, and despite his better than Reggie's facilitating, he's still not the answer for the Clippers. So it's pretty hard to be a competitive team without a good point guard. I mean, every championship recently has had a great point guard leading the team. The last time a team didn't was probably a decade ago when the Heat won in 2013. But it's a bit easier to win a championship without a good point guard when you have prime LeBron James, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. The problems don't stop there either. The Clippers genuinely can't beat a good team this year. No, seriously. Almost all their wins have been to under 500 teams, being 16-5 against 500 teams and a measly 5-14 against above 500 teams, which is a horrible sign for the playoffs. The Clippers are also the 4th oldest team in the NBA, which isn't always a bad thing, but it does seem to result in a lack of athleticism and effort for the team. Just against the Nuggets the other night, the lack of effort was embarrassing and quite funny at times. After being down by 33 at halftime, they didn't even attempt to fight back. They ended up going down by over 40 in the second half. They also settle so often for three-pointers. They shoot the 5th most threes in the league, and only 4 teams shoot less at the rim than them, which can be very dangerous. Just ask the Rockets from a few years ago. The Clippers genuinely need to be seriously careful for the rest of the season. It's all good and well playing the long game and resting your star duo to unleash them in the playoffs, but you have to actually make the playoffs to do that. And with the new play-in system and the 12th and 6th seed in the West only being separated by 2 games, you don't want to risk getting caught in the play-in and getting eliminated from even making the playoffs. However, there are some positive for the Clippers this season. They do remain a very, very good defensive team, even with Kawhi sitting out so many games. Also, if Kawhi Leonard does get back to his form of 2021, it's scary for everyone, regardless of who he's got around him. Unfortunately, I just think that might be a big ask at this point in his career coming off an ACL tear. Also, the Clippers do have the depth and talent to either keep and build or trade away for another star piece. If it was me, I would definitely be making some trades at the deadline. This may sound crazy, but hear me out. I genuinely think a Trae Young trade could be a possibility. The Atlanta Hawks are really struggling, and there seems to be a lot of drama over there in Atlanta at the moment. The Clippers also have a ton of guys on like $10 million a year contracts. It would also completely solve their playmaking issue, as Trae is easily a top 3 playmaker in the league. On a more realistic note, the Clippers should try and get a good backup center. Their small ball experiment is not seeming to work this year. I mean, Rudy Gobert just dropped 25 and 20 on them in a win. Rudy Gobert. The main thing they should try and target though is a good playmaking point guard. A guy like Tyus Jones would be absolutely perfect for the Clippers. Someone who can facilitate at a high level, who commits very low turnovers with a very high basketball IQ. So basically as far away from Reggie Jackson and John Wall you can get. Regardless, let me know how you think the Clippers will do this season. Will they actually get it together and finally win that NBA championship, or will it be another failed year out in LA and likely the end of the Paul George and Kawhi experiments? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and until next time, see ya.